I mean, there are times as a leader I've hit it out of the park, and times as a leader that I failed miserably.
Mhm.
But I always try to learn from those experiences and move on.
Hey, friend, welcome to the Workforce Link podcast, where we offer forward thinking conversations for the workforce, linking employers and job seekers to a brighter tomorrow. I'm your host, Sunday Joe, and I'm so excited to be here with you for another episode. Before we dive into today's episode, though, I would love to ask you a quick favor. If you're enjoying the Workforce Link podcast, would you mind heading over, leaving a quick review wherever you listen to this podcast? This helps others find us, and that's our goal, right? To enjoy these conversations with as many people as possible, and that keeps me employed. So that's a big bonus. Also, preferably a 5-star review would be great. Now, let's get to the good stuff. I'm excited about today's episode because we have a very special guest with us, my friend Cindy Shorey. Cindy actually used to be my boss when we worked together for the Caring People, which is a nonprofit dedicated to helping single moms. And so, of course, she's going to have a lot of nice things to say about me because I'm sure I was her favorite employee. Seriously, though, Cindy has served in various roles in her life, including managing a music theater for one of the greatest legends in country music, who just happens to be her dad. You will have to keep listening to find out who exactly we're talking about. And from there, she became CEO of a nonprofit. So here's a question. Is there a difference between leading in those two roles? We're going to find out in today's episode. Cindy currently serves as the onboarding coordinator for Amazon in Nashville, where she and her husband Kevin live on the family farm. I am excited about today's episode, so let's dive in. Here's my interview with Miss Cindy Shorey. Okay, Cindy, thanks so much for joining us today. So honored to have you here, that you're taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good to be here in the
So you
virtual world.
Yeah, the virtual world, right? We get to do a lot of new things in today's virtual world for sure.
Love it.
So you've had quite the career. You've been involved in various aspects of the business world, the nonprofit sector, from managing a music theater to being the CEO of a ministry for single moms. Can you tell us about those two very different worlds and kind of how they also go together?
Sure. Well, I was really blessed to be able to work for two of my heroes. So I'll just start by saying the opportunity to work for my dad was really a prayer that I had on my heart for many years. And so I jumped to that opportunity. Little did I know I would jump into the theater business in Branson, Missouri at the really the height of its heyday in terms of music shows, and just was really thrown into this world of entertainment, 2 shows a day, 7 days a week, often, um, constantly hiring new employees. At the time, marketing in Branson was key to getting tourists into the shows. But I tell you, we were blessed. Basically, if we turned on our marquee, the seats would fill up. And so that was just an exciting time. I was able to learn a lot, learn in the industry of tourism in Branson, Missouri, and that really was, again, probably I have to look back and say it was the job of a lifetime. Working
Yeah.
for my dad and also seeing that little town turn into such an incredible destination.
Yeah. And so for those who don't know, when you're talking about your dad, can you fill us in on that?
Sure. My dad is Mel Tillis. He was a fabulous country music entertainer, television personality, author. He did so much in his lifetime. He's since passed on. It'll be 4 years this November. And I tell you, every day I think about him and I think about the leadership lessons he left me, which included,
Mhm.
if you didn't have the answer, you never said, I don't know. You would say, I will find out. If you promised somebody you were going to be somewhere, you were there. He just really taught me so much about business. And even though he had such an incredible career in that industry, of which I knew very little about in terms of business, he was able to share with me his insight. Um, Later, because of everything that I learned with my dad and for my dad, I was able to go to work for Jody Hershen of Hershen Family Entertainment. Also, like my father, Jody's passed on, but she taught me so much about, again, being a good listener, putting your heart and your passion into your work, and also trusting in the people that you have around you, and learning when you needed to hand things off and not try to take on too much. And so those two industries, a nonprofit in terms of reaching single moms and entertaining millions of tourists in a little town like Branson, may sound very different, but in both roles, I think really being a servant leader, understanding that I couldn't direct somebody in a job unless I also knew that job, or knew it well enough that I could coach that person intelligently. Um,
Absolutely.
and if there, a lot of times at the theater, if we had a crisis with a customer, that may be involved in helping that customer who's far from home get to the hospital because of an emergency. What do? You drop everything, you get in the car with that person, or you get in the ambulance, whatever it took. If you had to get in the bathroom and help a customer with an emergency, you did that. Um,
Hmm.
Also, the caring people, when you're working with single moms who have very little, there were times, many times, I had to go in an apartment where you would find a single mom with, two or three kids who maybe they hadn't bathed regularly, or they had a shortage of food, or there was a crisis in terms of their personal life. You really had to, again, be that servant leader and understand that if you're not willing to do that hard thing, then you shouldn't be in that position.
Aren't you enjoying the interview with Cindy? I just love her. She is so encouraging and such a wonderful person to get to know. I want to interrupt for just a quick second to tell you about something really amazing that's happening in the central region of Missouri right now. I want to talk about apprenticeships. In what some have called a dying industry, the Missouri Office of Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning says differently. The Central Workforce Development Region is excited to partner with the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development to offer Missouri Apprentice Connect, providing hundreds of opportunities in Central Missouri for a variety of apprenticeship opportunities. Whew, that was a mouthful. So, what in the world is an apprenticeship? It's an industry driven, high quality career pathway in which workers can obtain paid work experience, classroom instruction, and a transferable credential while job creators develop and prepare their future workforce. Apprenticeships offer a flexible training model that can be customized to meet the needs of every business and industry, a viable tool for the state to use to give to Missourians the necessary skills to succeed, an affordable approach to training and education for the employer and the job seeker, an opportunity to earn a paycheck while learning from day one, reducing the potential to take on student debt. Workers who complete, get this, workers who complete apprenticeship programs earn an average of $300,000 more over their career when compared to peers who don't. That's pretty good news. Doesn't it make you want to sign up right away? 94% of apprentices retain employment after completing an apprenticeship program. If you are a training provider or an employer who wants to invest in this exciting opportunity, now is the time. Are you looking for a bridge between school and a profitable career? Well, guess what? An apprenticeship might just be the answer. Take the next step today and learn more at cwdregion.com/moappconnect. That's cwdregion.com/moappconnect. And now, back to my interview with Miss Cindy Shorey. Yeah, you can't if you're not willing to take out the trash and do the small things and clean the toilet, then it's you're gonna have a rough time being a true leader.
Exactly. I remember we had sold the theater and we had a few more months left of our season, and the new owners came to visit, and we had a sold out crowd. We had about 3,000 people in our lobby at the theater, and we were selling hot dogs and popcorn like crazy. And so, I had to run down, get behind the concession stand and I used to laugh about my ability to sling hot dogs and popcorn. I became pretty proficient at that. But you have to be willing to do the small task if called upon to do that.
Yes. So you and I actually met in your role at the Caring People. We met at a luncheon, and I had no idea who your dad was. You had no idea that I was a fan of your dad, and so that was a pretty hilarious first meeting for sure. And then it eventually led to me, of course, becoming your favorite employee.
Absolutely.
Um, but I will say you taught me a lot about leadership in that role. You taught me a lot about. I was going to school at that time for communications, but you taught me so much about that field that honestly, I would not be standing behind this microphone today doing this podcast if it were not for many of the things that you taught me and were willing to invest in me for sure. So I appreciate that so much.
Wow, thank you. That's a compliment because I feel like you have taken so much of the knowledge that you've learned and much of it on your own, and you've really parlayed that into, gosh, finding your niche and helping people, and that's your strength. Um, in terms of when we worked together, the thing that I really cherished about having both a friend and an employee like you were always willing to kind of explore new avenues. And so
Mhm.
if there was something I wanted to try, whether it was a different sign in, function on a blog or whatever it required, you were willing to explore it and not you weren't a naysayer. And you
Mm.
have to have people around you who will dream, especially if you're trying to set a mark out in the future for the organization to hit. You have to have people around you who are willing to say, what if we did this? And you were
Yeah.
really wonderful about embracing my crazy new ideas. I think we really turned those objectives into some solid successes, and we learned in that. You were trusting, you were willing to say, okay, I'll listen to your crazy idea, as I said, and I appreciated that. And you had such a strong work ethic. I knew if you were given a project, you would get it done and you would get it done in spades. And besides that, you were compassionate and fun. You made me think outside the box. And whenever you can have people around you that can help you stretch and grow, then you've got a winning team.
I don't think we need to talk about anything else for the rest of the episode. I think we can we can end on that. My head's swelling a little bit.
Well,
You
no,
know,
yeah, it's all true.
but thank you. Leadership is hard, right? But it's also good. What do you think have been some of the hardest lessons that you've learned about being a leader?
Without a doubt, the hardest lessons I think I've learned, it always comes back to people. And, when I was working with the Hershins, Pete Hershin was a great teacher and taught me so much about getting the right people on the bus. And there's so much truth to that.
Mhm.
You've got to be willing in that to go with your instinct. And if
Mm.
your instinct tells you that person that you are about to hire is worth the investment, then you need to make that investment. Um, uh, Consequently, if you don't give that person enough of your time, then it can come back and, hurt your working relationship in a way that sometimes can be hard to mend. And so
Mm,
I think it comes back to choices, investing in people, following your instinct. There are times you have people on board that you see that they're not fit for that role. I have a mercy streak,
mhm.
and I tend to let things play out rather than being proactive in, okay, I need to make a change in this position. And those are certainly things I look back and, yeah, I try not to look back and regret or, I don't think should beat yourself up. You should definitely always rely on that initial instinct and feeling that you have about that person.
Absolutely. It's really, really great advice. Yeah. I heard somebody say once, if it weren't for people, it'd be easy to lead people. And that's so true.
Well, and when you're working in a small office, you get to interact daily in a
Hmm.
way that is personal. And um, I always valued the employee that would come in and say hello.
Hmm.
The employee that would come by my office and say, "How you doing today?" And I always felt like I needed to give that back. Or when I left for the day, I made sure to tell the receptionist and the assistant, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much for today." And just
Hmm.
trying to have a sense of gratitude with your coworkers and reminding them of the work that they do is important, whether it's a country music theater and you're working with the box office staff, or it's a nonprofit and you're working with a team that's going to drive your mission further. So, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's just another reminder of, just how much our words matter, and two simple words like thank you, they go a long way.
absolutely. And I can look back. I give myself a pretty average scorecard across the board in different scenarios. I mean, there are times as a leader I've hit it out of the park, and times as a leader that I failed miserably.
Mhm.
But I always try to learn from those experiences and move on. Even to this day, I still take those things. I work at Amazon currently. I work at one of the warehouses. I'm on the coaching and auditing team, and I still value those same instincts about people. But I've learned that if you just peel back those layers a little bit with each employee, eventually you get to know that person, and the way that you
Mhm.
relate to them can make a true difference in the job that they do that day. And that's
Absolutely.
something I really, really value.
100%. Yeah. Well, the workforce used to look a little different than it does now. People worked at the same job for 30 plus years, they retired, that was the end of it. And that's definitely not so much the case these days. That's rare. But depending on the generation you ask, you get different opinions regarding that. What are your thoughts on that?
I've learned this lesson completely in the last 2.5 years. Do not be afraid, any age, any generation, and I would say especially maybe somebody that's 55 and they're moving home and they're not sure what to expect in the workforce and they're changing careers. Don't be afraid to try something completely outside the box of what you would
Mhm.
normally normally apply for. Or and the same with the young people today. I think they need more opportunities to learn a skill, whether it's something they learn at college or something they can learn in a trade school. But they need to be constantly learning, whether it's something
Mhm.
they can learn online. I'm amazed at everything that you can go online uh, and learn just over a course of a few hours. When I
Mhm.
first moved back to Nashville, I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go in, so I took some time and took an online Google certification course. And it gave me such confidence in those things that I had always been interested in. And I think you have to be willing to relearn or learn a completely new field, to have confidence in the workforce. And I
Hmm.
think our young people need to know, look, you have so many things at your fingertips these days, that uh, I would say, I mean, I'll be 60 in September, and the things that I'm now learning online have just blown my mind. And I think there should be no excuses for people these days in terms of, furthering their career in whatever field they choose.
Hey, friend, just want to interrupt for just a minute to invite you to check out our Central Missouri Job Centers. With 8 different locations throughout the Central region, we have an excited staff waiting to assist you with all of your employment related needs. Columbia, Rolla, Jeff City, Lebanon, Lake of the Ozarks, and more. Whether you're looking for employment, want to go back to school and earn an education, or you're an employer trying to find your next great team member, our Job Center staff can help. Find your closest Job Center location today at cwdregion.com/jobcenters. That's cwdregion.com/jobcenters. Now, back to the show. Yeah, love that. No excuses. That's a great segue into my next question. You're talking about the future generation, and unfortunately, like, especially the millennials get a lot of flack for their quote unquote work ethic. But just because something looks different doesn't mean that it's wrong. I just think this generation, we think differently. They're passionate about some of the things the generation before them maybe wasn't. That doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that's where they're at. What do you think that we could do to keep moving this generation forward in today's society?
I think teaching our young people to be more curious. I know that seems so simplistic, but I've worked with a lot of young people at Amazon who don't even know how to go up to the job board and follow the information, or to really kind of dive deep. In fact, that's one of the Amazon principles, is to dive deep. And a
Hmm.
lot of our young people, they're just surface in terms of, okay, if I can't find it with the swipe of my finger on my phone in the next couple of swipes, and I'm gonna give up. You've got to be
Right.
able to dive deep and be curious about those fields you want to explore. For instance, I'm working with a young man at Amazon who he's getting his dental hygienist degree, and here he is about to complete this, and he'll do well. It'll be a great job, but he's telling me what he really wants to pursue is fashion design, and he's been taking some courses. I said, look, find a way. If that's your dream, find a way to make it happen. And don't
Hmm.
don't again give up the excuses. There's so many ways. There's night classes, there's online classes. We have to continue to encourage them to not take things on surface value, and that there is going to be someone else their same age who's going to be willing to go do the hard work and to go research and explore, that will get that position. So you
Hmm.
can't sit back on your laurels. You can't, you've got to be willing
Right.
to just really dig in and learn everything you can. If you're hired at Amazon to be a picker or a stower, then learn everything you can about that role. Learn, talk with your co-managers, your shift assistants, whatever it is. I think you have to be willing we have to be willing to invest that in our young people and just continue to
Hmm.
encourage them to not give up so easily.
Yeah, and be curious. I love that you said that. I feel like we should make that into a bumper sticker. Be curious.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's something that I'm always teaching my own children, and I'm really proud of them. They're doing great, but I just continue to kind of, to question them about how they're choosing a certain path in their career
Hmm.
life, and
Yeah.
how to, what's the avenue that they expect to be on to get to where they want to go, and then challenge them in those questions.
Right. Be
Yes.
curious. Definitely. So, Cindy, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh my goodness. Well, I really wanted to be a tennis player, a famous tennis player. But beyond that, I really wanted to be a writer. Writing has been a passion of mine. I've recently been compiling kind of a portfolio of some of the things I have written that I have gotten published, and mainly those things have mainly been in the music industry, whether it's press release or whatnot. I did an article about Branson that I was really proud of. That got picked up by one of the papers in St. Louis, and I just feel like that was an area that was a dream that I truly thought about for a very long time. I still do a lot of writing. I don't do near as much as I'd like, but you never know what the future holds. I may write that great novel here when I'm 90.
You could write a book on being
I
curious.
could. I absolutely could.
You are a really great writer, definitely.
Well, thank you. I enjoy it, and I hope, who knows what'll happen. My One of my mentors, Ann Compton with ABC News, told me recently, whatever I do in the future, she hopes it will include writing, and that was the highest compliment that I could ever receive. And it's something that again, when you're talking about the future generations, find a way to compliment those kids and say, "Hey, I notice you're really good at this. Have you ever thought about this?" So I think, yeah. So that was my dream, and you never know. I still, I still write down a lot of words. Just I haven't written that novel yet.
That's right. Well, you still got time.
Yes, I do.
So, what do you think that we're doing in the workforce industry today that's moving us forward, and where do you feel like we still need improvement?
Oh, I love that our junior colleges are starting to shine. And, everybody always talks about the Ivy League schools, and they're great schools, but I love that, for instance, I have a nephew that did very well in high school, and then he set out and did not apply for college for several years, and finally, he decided to get online and start working on his degree. And I just love that there's so many opportunities now to get your degree online and to work, maybe learn not in the traditional way. And I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of our employers, for instance, Amazon has a great program where they'll cover your tuition if you choose to go back to school in an industry that they work with, whether it's transportation or logistics, whatnot. I love that a lot of our companies and are finding programs and or I'm sorry, developing programs that enable our workforce to continue growing. And I love that. I'd
Yeah.
like to see more small size companies do that as well.
Yeah. You know that we're actually working on something like that right now in Missouri with Apprenticeship Connect, where really trying to help people understand that apprenticeships are still alive and well, and that you don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree to go out and get a career.
Absolutely. In fact, my daughter, who is at Belmont learning fashion design, she had taken an internship working with a local craftsman who works with intricate beads and beading for different
Love that.
outfits and
Oh,
sewing and
wow.
whatnot. And she loved it. And it's a very competitive field in terms of designing these elaborate outfits and whatnot. And she was just amazed by it, and I thought that is so great that she could go and learn that skill. um,
Yeah.
so yes, I agree. I think we need to let our students know that, there are other ways to get in the workforce besides the traditional route.
Well, we can't have all work and no play in our worlds because that wouldn't be any fun, right?
Right.
So,
That's
what what is one thing that you love to do for fun?
Oh, I love to go camping. I have it on my bucket list to actually, in the next few years, I'd like to do several hundred miles on the Appalachian Trail. And that is something that I really want to work towards. But in the meantime, just getting out the camping gear, spending a couple nights away from home, out, by a campfire in the woods. To me, that's just paradise. I just love it.
I love all of it except sleeping in the tent.
Well, I know. I've been looking for
But it's your dream, not mine.
well, no, tents can be tricky, but yeah, but actually RV sales are going out of the roof right now because
Really?
more and more people are finding ways to just get outside. I think this last year has really conditioned us to trying to find ways to enjoy our life, that, simplistically without maybe
Mhm.
getting a car and going somewhere. So, but yeah, I love to camp. Anything outdoors, if it's I like mowing my yard. I've just planted thornless blackberries and I love watching them develop and anything outdoors, I would say I'd love to do.
Love that. Well, I have had so much fun in this conversation today, and I hate that we have to go. We could sit and talk all day long, I'm sure. But before we go today, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would just say, I spent 29 years in Missouri and I absolutely love that area, whether it's, the Branson area, Columbia, I just think is such a fantastic town. St. Louis is one of my favorite cities in all of the world. And I just feel like Missourians are so blessed to live in that area and there's so much opportunity there. And I just wish you well in this work and this project, and love that you're learning even more new avenues to go down.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for hanging out with us today. This has been so much fun, and I know it's going to be helpful to so many, both in leadership and job seekers. So again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sunday Joe. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. I'm sure that we could have kept talking for hours, and I will definitely pay Cindy later for all the good things that she had to say about me. In the meantime, have a great week, my friend, and we will meet again in the next episode. Until then, remember this: there's always a brighter tomorrow if you're willing to find it. The Central Region Workforce Development Board Incorporated and COPIC are equal opportunity employers and programs. Auxiliary aids and services are available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Missouri Relay Services at 711.